Howdy chaps, and welcome back to another fantastic video. On this one, you are going to follow me on a journey as we figure out how to make a mudguard for this new Stuart tank. We have plans, I have lots of photos, I have a bit of an idea, and I have Pepsi Max. We're off to a great start. I've just had some of this stuff made from Sheet Metal Australia. They made this piece and this piece and this little infill piece here goes there. I've also got some 40 by 40 by 3 angle iron for the side because, well, you can't get 38mm by 38mm by 1/8 of an inch angle iron anymore. Well, probably unless you're in America you could probably get it, but not here in Australia. We're on the metric system. It just doesn't exist. Well, if it does exist, I can't find it easily. But anyway, we're going to try and do this. I'm going to do this side because I've already got an original piece of angle iron on the tank, and this bit's all ready to go, and I've got some of the brackets. So I've had a bit of a head start, but I think we can follow along and see if we can make a complete guard for the side of the tank. Alrighty, so I've started this video using my phone, which is why that intro probably is a smidge quieter than it normally would be, because I think this task is going to take me longer than what I would normally get on a Saturday, so I'm just sneaking in a bit of time at the end of my Friday. So we'll run you through it. So this was made by Sheet Metal Australia. Did a bloody brilliant job. I gave them another one that I borrowed to copy, and basically to keep it nice and cheap, it was just a roll and a shape and a few things. They also made these pieces, but I've had to add in a sliver through here because you just couldn't fold that shape. I've started making this bracket that comes up through here, and it's going to strap across there, and there's another sort of gusset that goes through here, and there's another one of these that goes here across up and supports the guard there. Thinking, Lincoln, I've been thinking. Also, these are the bolts that I'm going to put the whole shoot and match together with. They look like rivets if you put a little bit of filler in the end of them. So they're going to work really, really well. So we're off to a good start. I do have to because originally this is riveted to these bits as well. So there is a couple of original rivets still hanging in there on this original piece. I'm not sure if that is supposed to be welded there. It just doesn't seem like it should be. But at some point in time, someone's come along and welded that to it. For what reason, I don't know, because it's supposed to be bolted through here. So this piece bolts through the hull, bolts onto the front of the sponson, and then obviously this whole guard can be removed, but it shouldn't be welded there. But I don't think that's going to be a problem for me. I've just got a chisel in here. Unfortunately this piece is a bit bent, and I'm probably not going to be able to straighten that terribly easily. So I'll just have to make do. Some things I have to make do because, as you can also tell, it's actually a bit rusty and a bit pitted, but it's an original piece, so we'll just work with it. And if it bugs me in the future, well, I can always change it. So there's that. So first task is get rid of those two guys with the oxy. I'll see if I can heat up around the rivet, because you want to actually you think you should heat up the rivet, but you shouldn't actually. You should be heating up around it because you want this to expand, and technically speaking, you probably want the rivet to be as cold as you want. You probably want the rivet to be as cold as possible, and this as hot as possible, because you want the rivet to go out. Because if you heat up the rivet, it's going to grip into that even more. So we want to heat these up. They're going to be a bit interesting to get at because that's not, brilliantly supported. Worst case scenario, I'll just get a flapper disc and grind the top off them and drill them out. But I've got to get those out first. And then I think what we need to do, first task would be to sort of jam that in there, up there, and then start working on the strap across here to hold this up. Now I do get my camera angles a bit wonky because I'm used to filming with my camcorder, my other camera, which has got a much bigger lens on it, so I can actually capture more. So the beginning of this video might be a little less good quality because I'm using my phone, but I do hope you're going to enjoy it.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Got a build up of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay. Just let me be me and I'll stay out of your way. I can see the way you look at me, I'm such a disgrace. I never really asked to be brought into this place. You wanna love.
Alrighty, now don't worry about burnt paint, it can be redone. So they're out and they went under the tank somewhere. I was just making sure they weren't going to catch anything I cared about on fire. So the next port of call is to get one of my new bolts and probably have to drill those out because I don't think they're quite, well that one is, but I don't think they're quite, those three there are quite big enough to take those bolts, so I'll get my drill bit and do that. I won't bore you with that one because I just, you know, some things are interesting, some things are not, and that's not one of them. And then we can work on trying to ram this little guy in this little hole here, and then we can start sort of getting it all lined up. And I can use the upside being is I can use the gaps between these I guess 4 holes here as a sort of guide to know where the next, or how far apart all these little guys are going to have to be. Because I don't actually know how wide, so I'm going to go with them because those ones are original and they seem to be good. Obviously, probably won't be one here, so I'll have to, because there apparently isn't anything here, but that's where that next strap is, so maybe the next one will be just on the edge of that. Yeah. Oh yeah, that'll work. You're right there. And then the next one will be there, and then I'll work my way along. Alrighty, so now this is where we're going to get a little bit creative. Now I've been in through here and it's a bit of a mess, but you know, get that at big jobs. Luckily, only you people and me will know about it. Anyway, so I've measured all those and then it didn't quite look right. So what I've decided was, I know I've got to have a bolt here for this strap here. So my theory goes, well, I'll put one from about the inch from in there, and then I'll start again doing them spaced through here. But then when I got here I didn't like how it was, so I've decided to go an inch from the end in the middle, a bit from there, and then there'll be another one there. So I wanted 3 down there. I don't know, I've noticed on this tank sometimes you think things are even but they're not. Like these rivets, even though they all look the same, they're not. Now I have measured correctly on every single thing, and despite how that looks, some of those are actually closer to each other than the other ones are, because they've got to count for being spaced evenly. So these ones are actually closer than these ones, some of these are closer than the others. So they did screw around with them a little bit. But yeah, that's just how it is. And I'm going to go with what makes me happy and what I find relatively aesthetically pleasing, and what I think should be strong enough. I will go back and double check photos, but I'm pretty sure there is supposed to be 3 through here, and then you've got the ones across the strap, and then in theory it should be evenly spaced across there. Still going to wing it a little bit. I'm going to try and jam this in there now, and then try and work up some spacing so I can actually drill some holes and put some bolts in. So bear with me. Alrighty, so I cut a few steps because I had to, because there was a lot of loud music playing next door and I had to sort of still keep things rolling while dealing with that, but that's not too bad. It's stopped now. We've put a couple of these little bolts in. Actually, they look not miles off the originals, which is pretty cool actually. Now the next step is, now I've got sitting in, I had to trim it up a little bit up here. Had to trim, little camera issue there. Had to trim it up a little bit in here because it is a bit funky. But, you know, you just got to make do with what you got. So it's in there. I'm going to trim this down a little bit later. This is actually surprisingly sturdy now. Where's the thing? Steady. So we got another one of those straps to make here, and we'll do that on the morrow. But I'm just going to probably do another couple through here. I know that there is 5 between here and that next strap, so I'll probably, and I've studied a lot of photos from original guards and stuff, so I'm going to do the next one here, like same distance from the middle to there, and then do those ones that gap apart, so there, and there. I think the actual next one ends about there, and there's no bolt actually through that strap, because I've also, once I do this, I've actually got to notch out these corners here and here, because there's a gusset that comes across here, and there's actually 2 more that go underneath that sort of help support the guard. So you've actually got to hack out a sliver from in there across to there, and then we should be laughing like a fat hairy spider. Ha ha ha. And I don't know what's in there yet. I don't know where the thread goes, but that is where we do. So what I'll do now is I'll measure up and cut that next piece, probably get it tacked onto here, and then I'll probably leave it for the night and come back to it tomorrow. But for you, that'll be very easily the next scene. Alrighty, so this is the strap that I'm using. It is 8mm thick. I think it's about yeah, it's 40 wide. The original is 38mm wide, but I don't think the human eye is going to pick up a millimetre either side, and 8mm is actually pretty darn close to what the original was. So I did actually have a sliver of original strap over here. Okay. Also, you notice that when they do these little things, they go over these things, they've got a little spacer underneath them, so they're actually welded on. So that's sort of, it goes in a different spot, but that's basically the exact same thing as what's there originally. So I was able to use this as a guide to get me agonizingly close to the original, so close that only a purist will probably pick it. So the next bit, and I noticed in all the original photos that this strap here does not come all the way to the edge. It stops, I'd say about 3/8 of an inch from the end. So I'll do the same, go across there, cut it, tack it on, and then maybe I'll drill a hole through it, put one of the little doodads in. Maybe not, I might do that tomorrow. Obviously in this whole video you're going to see it all in one thing. I've just doing it over the space of a day and a half. So I'll cut that and see you in a second. Alrighty, I went for a calculated guesstimate. I know that sounds like a technical term, but yeah, I went for 15.5 inches. It seemed like a good number with a nice little gap on the end. And I've rounded that, beveled that edge. What I'm going to do is work out a nice sort of distance between potential rivets, and I'm going to take this before I weld. I'm going to take it over to my drill press, because it'll be 4 million times easier to drill that plate off before it becomes part of this piece, and then I'm going to put it back on here and weld that. So I'll work out from photos and stuff and just take a rough guess how many rivets go across here, and drill this, then bring it back, then tack it on. But it's not looking too rubbish. suitably impressed. Also, these are a bit of a funky thing. The factory made these in one piece and then welded their gussets in. Yeah, I can't do that. Not only can I not bend 8mm bar easily, but they're a bit of a funky shape as they come up. That is not actually, that's on a bit of a tilt, so you have to put a twist in it at the same time, and that one's even more twisty, so I don't think it's not looking too bad. A lot of this is going to be eyeballing it. So there's actually a lot of pieces to these front guards once they're welded on and all together with all the little doodads, because there's actually a piece of angle line that starts about here and actually kicks down, comes along, and then actually goes to about here, and it has to have a little piece that juts under some bolts under there. So we honestly do all of that and attach it. We've got to put an angle line across here as well, but there is nothing through here, although on the ones that had the full sand shields they would drill holes through here and then continue to fit the whole sand shields for when it was in the desert. But I don't think any of the Australian ones had the full sand shields on, or if they did, they weren't on there for very long. So keep on keeping on. Alrighty, not looking too rubbish if I do say so myself. See how it's on a slight angle? Those are in. I worked out there was 5. I worked out that this one was further in than that one, so I'm just going for aesthetically pleasing. Doesn't look too terrible. So the next protocol is drag the welder over it, turn it up to 1,000,000, and I might bevel that edge a little bit there so I can fill that with weld, you know, turn it nuclear, and then when I grind it, I need to actually grind this peak off here, because realistically you want that to look like a smooth fold, like it was put through a folder. So weld that to 1,000,000 and then grind that smooth and then sort of roll the edge, and then we should be laughing. Alrighty, and that's where I'm going to stop for the day. I've got well, effectively the basic shape of that strap is on now, all the guard support, looking lovely. Tomorrow, but for you it'll be the next clip, but for me tomorrow I'll have to start drilling all the holes through here, take this off, cut through there, put a gusset in there, put another gusset through there, and start doing all that stuff, and you'll see that in the next clip. But for me, I'm going home. But what do you reckon? Not bad.
Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh
Alright, you might be asking yourself, Graham, why are you taking this back off? Well, because I need to actually drill out the holes that go through this angle iron up, and because I can't see through the steel, I don't know where they are, so I've got my scribe from underneath. I'm going to take it back off, and then I'm going to flip the plate over, drill through, and then put it back on. I also need to get this bolt back out. That's going to be fun because I had Dad help me put that in, and I'm on my own today. So I am struggling with a bit of noise coming from next door, so I'd like to film more, but because the music is so loud from next door, I don't want to get demonetized for copyright infringements, because that's how YouTube works, and that's why the music normally played on YouTube is so rubbish, because there's no copyright on it. But if you play like popular music, you'll get done for that. So I've sort of got to be mindful not to have that coming through the speakers too loudly on the camera. But we've drilled most of the holes, just going to do those ones up there and flip it and then put it back on. So once I do that, I'll see you in a minute. However, I do have to cut out a small section out of both of these, so I'll cut that once it's off. That way, when I put that bracket back on, I can then put my two little gussets in there that actually sit through there. So progress is going rather well and not too shabby. There is a lot of holes in these guards, and I haven't even done the outside ones yet. I did go buy myself I think it was like a $40 drill bit, and now I didn't heat that myself. That's how it looks when it comes out of the packet. Some sort of cobalt, ooh la la, humnum humnum num 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 la, can drill through a million things. And I bought myself a drill bit sharpener for the other cheapies that I got. But no, I did not overheat that. That's how it came out in the packet. So I'll get this off, flip it, drill the holes, and put it back on. And I'll see you in a minute. Alrighty, there we go. The notches are in there. I believe this end hole here that I cut out is actually for the side of the headlight mount, but as you can see here on my phone, these are photos I took of an original guard, and you can see the little braces in there and how far in it goes. So it's not huge, but I don't think I'm going to go in that far, but yeah, you can see that they have some supports that go underneath, and you have to have cuts into them. And you can see this original one has got some cuts in this piece here. So I'm working off original photos, which is kind of handy. I drilled those holes over there, looking lovely. I'm going to stick this all back together in a second and see how we're looking. I might not put all the bolts back in because it takes a long time to put them all in and take them all out and put them all in and take them all out. Because I think I'll be taking this on and off a few times today. Ooh. Anyway, I'll get it back on and then I think at that point in time we need to work on that next support there. And then once that's made, then we can take the two supports off and then put the angle iron in and things like that. So, making good progress. Alrighty, you might notice a headlight brush guard. I'll get to that in a second. All of these bolts are in, looking lovely. Shame about that piece of angle iron, but we'll cross that bridge later down the track. So, fitting lovely. So all the way through here. Got my little cutter in there for when I do that. Got my bolt ready for going in there. These are all in. That's in, I think. I'm working on now. I made this headlight brush guard a little while ago. If you're on my Patreon, you would have seen me making it. So I copied an original, and I couldn't make the bottom bends the way the original ones are because they're folded. But you might notice it actually sort of twists at the same time. So yeah, I tried, I couldn't do it too hard, and these ones are even more impossible because they come down to a 90 and then they twist. So I was like, I'm just going to have to do the best I can, and that'll just have to be how it is until one day maybe I come across some originals that I can have. So now this is going to throw people, but the headlight brush guards do actually hang off the inside slightly. I know that seems weird. It seems like they shouldn't. You think they'd be over here and they'd look actually aesthetically pleasing, but from an original guard to work from, that's going for that hole there, that's about where they go, and they hang off in there. I'm just going to go for a bit of a happy medium. I'm going to probably spread that slightly so I can use there and those two holes. It might be I'll just play it by ear actually. I don't know if it's going to spread and look right, but I'll try my best. But that's where that goes, hangs off there. Just sit that there for now. And once I got that on, then we can work on that strap. I'm really leaving that to the last minute because I just can't be. Just don't want to have to climb in the tank to undo that bolt, but I'm going to have to. And then of course, when that's done, we have the angle iron that starts here. Actually has to bend down, has a nice round edge, and then it carries along and goes to about here, and it comes up there, and then starts tucking up into the into the side of the sponson, and then bolts in under there. So we're not actually too far from having this guard finished. And I did actually think to myself, going, because I have photos of this particular side of the tank from World War II, I know there's a bend in the guard, like just here, this corner is just bent down, and I thought, do I bend it down or do I leave it nice? I don't know, I'll probably just leave it nice, but I just thought it was interesting because you can pick it. It's always, in every photo it's got that little piece there is bent down. It's just a little half moon and it's but anyway, I'm going to try and make that sit, and I think the thing with this is I'm going to make it pleasing to me, because if I put it how it's pleasing to other people, it'll probably bug me forever. So I'm going to make it so it makes me happy and that it's fairly close to original. They are supposed to hang off. I'm probably going to go for it to be a bit like that. We're assuming that I made this correct too. So I'll have it like that, and then that one will be hanging off the edge there. They are supposed to be mounted through those two holes. Definitely that one and maybe another one there. But I don't really want to drill yet another hole. So we will play it by ear. I will catch you up in a second once I've figured out what on earth is going on in my head. Alrighty, I've just had to give that a little tweaky poos, just make it just lean back just a smidge, and we're laughing. I'm going to tidy up once that comes down from about 1,000 degrees, which actually it probably wasn't far off, because remember I did a boiler making course at one point and it was like, just because it's not glowing red doesn't mean it's not 700 degrees. So let that cool off, then I'll just tidy it up a little bit. I was just not happy with how it looks, and although if you line it, it's not bad here, hanging off a little bit there. I went for a happy medium, so as I say in the classics, I'm happy and that's all that matters. But not looking too bad. It looks out of place, doesn't it, because it's so big, but that's how it was. And also remembering the whole top of the tank's still missing, so it's not going to look out of place once, you know, it's another 5.5 feet taller than it was. And then I put angle iron across there and a few things, and when I get my headlight mounts back from being brass cast, I can mount them. That is exceptionally warm. Mount that in there, and then try and get, I'm thinking something like a 5.5 inch hot rod headlight, something you'd find on maybe a motorbike or a T-bucket or something like that, just to mount in there, because the original headlights are just impossible to find and really expensive. So I'm going to go with a cheapie that I'll probably de-chrome, paint the green and then put in, and you probably won't even be able to pick it. But superficially, not bad. Alrighty, the headlight brush guard is mounted. I've tidied up the corners a little bit. I do actually think, so these are supposed to be rivets, but I actually think the brush guard might be bolted on from factory, so I may come back and actually replace those with bolts. But going off photos, it hangs off a bit, but it doesn't hang off heaps. The problem is it's hard to find photos. This is what's ridiculous. It's hard to find photos of a Stuart in the period where these aren't completely mangled. Same with the guards. Those front steps are just squashed up against the front of the tanks. It's like they were new and just used them for knocking down trees and stuff. But these are usually always just squashed and flattened and folded, so finding photos of them where they're immaculate is actually not that easy. And same with the steps, they're always just... And even the original photo of this tank in Buna, its front step is mangled. So, you know, it is what it is. So, crossing some I's, dotting some T's, I think it's time to do the angle iron. I've got some 40 by 40 by 3, I think. 40 by 40 by 3, which is the same as what's on that piece over there. Or thereabouts. That's actually 38 by, you know, the imperial equivalent. So I've gotten as close as I can. I know that it stops here. It's got a little bend. It goes, doesn't go any further, and it goes up there. So I can do the majority of it in a straight piece, and then I'll probably have to put some pie cuts into it and have it slope downhill. And then over here will be a bit tricky, because about here it actually, because that's on an angle obviously, goes here and then it flattens off and goes like this, but the bottom keeps going. So there's a bit of, what I might do is I might do a straight piece from here down to there and then do the pie cut at the end, get that done, and then make this small section and then weld the two together, take them back off, weld them two together, and then put them on. Although I just realised what I should be doing is that strap there, but I actually want to do the angle iron first. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So once I do some cuts and measuring, I will see you in a minute. Alright, look at that, it's not too shabby at all. Now, I took the bolt out of there, I took the bolt out of there. I'll probably have to put a little pie slice in there a little bit, maybe one or two, just to have that tilt down a little bit, but it's not too bad. And this worked out really well, so and then just clamp it up and then, so what I'll do is drill through that into there, and then probably what I'll do is I'll just copy the spacings of those ones all the way along there. I went for, you know, that's 20mm in. It looks okay, looks nice, doesn't look terrible. This one might be hanging off the edge there a little bit, but I don't think it's a showstopper, to be perfectly honest. And then the next one will be just there on that line there, and then I'll continue along up the side. So surprisingly, I'm actually getting a bit excited. It's starting to look really, really good. And then I realised, hey, you never realise once you've done one, you're only halfway through the job, because you've got to do the other side. The other one won't be in this video. I'm just going to run out of time because today is just flying. Phew, and you'll miss it. But what I'll do is I'll drill that and cut that up there, and then start marking them out and drilling them out. You probably don't need to see that, so I'll catch you once I've done it. Alrighty, I'm actually having a moment where I'm wondering how long this video is actually going to be. It could be quite a long one, but some people do like them. So as you can see, I do pie cuts to change the angle. So this angle actually, see how it's parallel? It actually keeps going across to here and actually peters off. But what I needed to do was bend that top flange, I guess, so it runs parallel, because this actually angle changes. And then what I'm going to do is I'll weld another piece of angle iron in here, and then what I can do is scribe, once this is all smooth, scribe it perfectly straight, or draw a line to about there, and then just zip it up there. Pretty similar to what I've just done here. Somehow that's still warm. So there was a stack of pie cuts through there, bent, smoothed off around there, and then obviously welded both sides, sanded, and looks pretty damn good actually. So what I'm going to do now is similar to what I did before there, just continue these along all the way there, and then we'll be probably running out of time. This is taking way longer than I ever thought possible. We might start doing this strap and that piece, wait for another day. I don't know, I'll play it by ear. Just gonna be my full time. Anyway, moving right along. Alrighty, so I jumped ahead a little, sorry, but I had to. So we've got all the rest of the bolts in there, that's cut, joined, and I've got my right angle here, 90 degrees, just to make sure that when that gets, well, should I say, when that gets welded to that, that sits at exactly 90 degrees across the panel, because it would bug the living snot out of me if I get it wrong. So I've beveled that edge down there, so when I nuke some weld through there, I can then grind the top, that sort of peak off there, and then that'll be as if it's one piece. And then I can drill the holes through there, bolt it on, and I think that's probably where we're going to have to leave the video. We have achieved quite a spectacularly large amount, but it's just such an enormous task. It's like most people who are watching me probably watch the Australian Armour and Artillery Museum YouTube channel, the Cairns Mob I call them. And it's hard to describe how much work goes into restoring a tank, but you have to fix every single thing, and if you can't get the original piece, you have to make the piece, and fabrication takes forever. So I watch them, I know of them, I think they know of me actually, and I know that most people who watch them watch me, so sort of all doing the same sort of thing. But this has taken me a day and a half and it's still not finished. Why won't it stop? But for example, you know, you get a piece of angle iron, but it needs to curve down and have a round edge on it. You got to slice through it, bend it, and you got to weld it up, grind it smooth, and then around the edges. It's not just stick it on and go. But anyway, I'm going to weld that on, and then I'm going to drill some holes and probably wrap it up there, I think. Well, chapperoonies, I think I'm going to have to leave it there. I've just run out of day. It's taken me a day and a half to get this far, and I'm not even halfway. A few things left to do. I've got to put the gussets in there, I've got to put the infill panel in here. You know, there's detail work, but this piece is done, all the holes are drilled. You know, making good progress. It's just a lot of work, and you know, I hope you've enjoyed following along with one of the tasks, one of the many tasks, and I get to do it again on that side. I did think about what I might do is round out the end of this video with a little bit of a montage of photos from when I got it to now. You know, just a smattering of them. Might do a little music video at the end of it and just give you a bit of an idea of how bad this was. It's still not finished, but it's a lot better than it was. Now it actually kind of looks like a tank. When it turned up, it sort of was like, I had a few people go, I think you're nuts. But I think some of those people are eating their words now. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there with the little outro of how this tank has gotten to where it is now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.